now a crash. That's Townsend fell. Trouble, oh my goodness, what a huge crash.
They're going to red flag.
Now we have a red flag. That means the race is officially stopped. It's not just a yellow situation.
They're looking for the green flag, and if the cars are in line, Benson Ford will take the pace car into the pits, and there he goes. Here come the cars. That's Andretti on the inside, Clark and the Miller, and Snyder on the outside, making their move to the lead. They gun it into the first turn. It looks like George Snyder may get the lead, but wait, look back near the first turn. A massive upheaval of cars, tires flying in every direction. Look at the bumping, the smoke. Has to be one of the worst accidents ever here at Indianapolis. Some of the cars do manage to get through, the first 4 rows in particular, and only a few from the rear. As the ambulance now comes to the rescue, let's hope that no one is injured. There you see the mangled wreck. Number 6, the car of Joe Leonard. Photographers busy, and the very efficient track maintenance crew here at the Indianapolis Speedway is on the scene. Ronnie Dubin on the rail is unhurt. We're glad to report that. The smoke is billowing now, up high, coming off the track. As the foam, the chemicals spread for the fireman now, is putting out the fire in a car. It looks like the car of Al Miller. I see A.J. Foyt's car is against the rail as the firemen work feverishly. Foyt has climbed the rail. In the white cap, Joe Cloutier, vice president of the Speedway, supervising the cleaning as now the cars that managed to avoid the accident. The front cars, led by Mario Andretti, are coming back near the starting position. We're happy to report that there were no serious injuries to spectators or drivers. 22 cars remain in the race, 17 are on the track, 5 are in the pits, but unfortunately, 11 have been declared out.
The grandstand at the Indianapolis Speedway has suddenly become a forest of colorful umbrellas because it's raining. Raining hard, and you saw the red flag being waved. That means that the 51st Indianapolis 500 is going to be stopped. For one of the very rare times in the history of Indy, the field will be brought around one more time and then actually and literally stopped and lined up in single file. There's Mario Andretti, who appeared to be out of the race, but now may not be, right, Roger?
Well, actually, Jim, if the race were stopped long enough, they could get this automobile repaired, and Mario could get back in this race.
That wasn't true a year ago, but it is now.
No, they've had a new rule change, and this could help his situation. If he's several laps behind, but of course, he's a man who wants to race.
That, of course, is because his car is still in the pits. Lloyd Ruby, on the other hand, who went out just a couple of minutes ago, has already had his car pushed into the garage, and that means he can't come back, doesn't it?
That's right. You have to keep your car on what is called the race course, and the pit area, of course, is the race course.
There is the leader in the race, the turbine car driven by Parnelli Jones, coming to a stop after just 18 laps. This car has certainly proved itself already, and gee, that rain is coming down hard now.
And there's the rest of the field lining up behind Parnelli. All the cars stopping.
Now, when they restart, whenever that may be, they will be lined up in single file in the order they were going on the track. That might mean, for example, that a lapped car would start out right behind Parnelli.
That's right, and there's Wally Dolan back, still having a little problem with smoke.
The covers being brought out for the race cars here, kind of another historic moment. The famous weather luck of Indianapolis track president Tony Hulman not holding out. He's had almost a spotless record up to now.
He certainly has. It's very unusual to have rain on race day at Indianapolis.
Now look at these leaden skies overhead. As things come to a halt, this crowd won't leave very soon, though, I'll tell you that. 300,000 of them will stick it out just about as long as they can. Mario Andretti praying for more rain. Let's get the word on this lead car from the man who owns it, Andy Granatelli.
Andy, you seem not only determined to win the Indianapolis 500, but you seem determined to do it with something radically different. For example, this beautiful machine you brought this year.
Yes, it is a different machine, Jim. It's entirely different than any car that's ever been brought here before. The car is four-wheel drive, and it has a turbine engine on its side, and the driver's just on the right side. The frame is smack down the center, and it's 30 times stronger than any other car here.
Is that right? The actual frame of the car, huh?
Yes, it's a wishbone type frame, and the fuel's just right in the middle of the car. It's different than anything that's ever been here before. It's the safest race car ever built. The overall width of the car is 3 inches narrower than other cars here. It just appears to be wider. Because the car is shorter, and it's completely new. Everything's new.
Okay, well, they're coming out of the fourth turn. The green flag is out in the hand of starter Pat Badan. Looks like we're going to get it this time. Roger Ward pulling off. Look, a car's out of control. It's Jimmy Malloy in the third row who suddenly hit the wall, spun across the track, and Pat Badan has put down the green flag and has the yellow out. This race is being put under a caution flag before it has begun. What in the world could that have been?
Jim, I honestly don't know. He had some kind of trouble, but the miraculous aspect of this is that no other car touched him. He hit the outside wall, spun through the field laterally from the outside of the track to the inside of the track, and everyone avoided him. Boy, what a beautiful driving on the part of the other driver. Well, whatever it was, it sent him into the outside wall. He bounced off and came spinning across the track. It looks as though the left rear suspension is seriously damaged, and that may have been what sent him into the wall. Missing other cars just by inches.
Malloy himself is okay, and there you see his car. Not too much in the way of visible damage. These other cars here are probably not aware of what has happened yet. They're going to be slowing them down as they get to the fourth turn, but they're going to have to brake pretty hard, even though they're not at racing speed.
The yellow light is on around the track, Jim.
Here they are, being cautioned to slow down, to move out by track workers and safety men. And now the yellow flag is being replaced by the red flag. So the 1970 Indianapolis 500 is being stopped before it has even begun. That must be a first.
They've had trouble here in recent years at the beginning, and here we have it again in 1970. We hope that Malloy can get his car back into the field.
The question now is whether these cars will start in their rows of 3 for a normal start, or whether, having been red flagged, they'll be put in single file to start. But now the word comes, they're going to line up as they did for another start.
It'll be a complete restart, and the word is that Malloy's car suffered a broken right rear radius rod and is damaged to the degree that it cannot join the field on the restart. There's Malloy walking back, a very disappointed fellow, but he'll get 33rd place when it's all over.
And more than $10,000, and he never ran a lap.
Coming off. Jim Ranton takes the base car off the track. He should get the green right now. Doesn't look like a repeat of last year's start. No, it's a good one. And here they come. Bobby Upford going for the lead. Johnny Rutherford right alongside him. Rutherford down low, but Bobby, there's a terrible crash on the home stretch. There are several cars in cars. We can't see the numbers, but it's been a bad crash on the start. It was in the middle of the field somewhere. Terrible thing. This is what everyone has feared. There is a report already that there may be spectators hurt, not confirmed. The wire fence right here on the straightaway was ripped apart. It was very fortunate that a car did not come into the crowd. You will see how the cables inside this screen are the only thing to stop this car from flying into the crowd. There, watch now, the screen itself is completely destroyed. The cables flinging him back out of the race course upside down, and again that fuel spraying on the crowd. That's a matter of great concern. And here that pinwheel effect. The alcohol-based fuel spinning out of the car upside down. Another car, Lee Koonsman, I believe, number 16, barely missing the crash. It's Walther, who is under the car. Terrible, terrible accident on the start at Indianapolis. Only 7 seconds after the start of the race.
These things happen in a split second, but I believe that something happened to his car because...
You're talking about which car now, Walther's?
They tell me it was Walther, the blue car. And I was squeezed over against the wall. I had no more room to squeeze out when his car veered to the right and ran into my left front wheel. And it almost knocked the steering wheel out of my hand. And the next, I continued. I stayed on the throttle because I saw his car climb over the wheel and go up, and I I knew that we were in trouble, and the only place to go is straight ahead. I was committed. There was no skill involved. But the way that the car veered into me so sudden there, I would reckon that something happened like you speculate on this, like a rear half shaft or something. Now, the people in the pits of my guys say that looked like something like a half shaft broke, and it just turned them right into me. And, of course, I saw nothing except for the car start to go over the top of me.
We have a late medical report on the condition of Salt Walther from Methodist Hospital. He has third-degree burns, on some 25% of his body. The doctors say that his condition is still serious but stable. He is now communicating with people, and the doctors say that he seems to be improving. As for the two teenage Indiana girls who were the most seriously injured spectators, both are still in the intensive care unit. Both are serious with burns. After Monday's disaster at Indianapolis, the start of the race was rescheduled for Tuesday, but the rains came, and they continued and continued. The cars were sent out once, scheduled for a 9 a.m. start. They were sent out about 11 o'clock, but without the green flag falling, there was more rain, and they came back in. The game was Frisbee, not motor racing.
Well, it was a stormy meeting of gigantic proportions. All the drivers in there with USAC officials, along with Indianapolis Motor Speedway officials. We get it on unimpeachable authority that one of the drivers stood up and said, look, if you don't shape up the start of this race, you're going to get us all killed out there. There were obscenities, name-calling, you name it. A big, stormy session. No threat of a boycott, and I asked one of the drivers when he got out of the meeting, what in the world can you do about it? He said, really nothing. He said, but you'd think that they could start this race successfully. He said, after all, they have only one race a year, and they have the rest of the year to prepare for it, and they managed to foul it up almost every year. And he said, our lives are the ones that are on the line. What they have done now is to say that we will not start the race at 80 miles an hour. They were supposed to start it at 80 yesterday. And all the drivers have told me the same thing. There is no possible way that we were going 80 miles an hour, and we had to accelerate too quickly and thus increasing the danger. So this time, the pace car will be driven at least 100 miles an hour to ensure a little safer start. And hopefully, it will get better. But right now, the atmosphere between the drivers and Speedway officials is anything but friendly.
Unser still the leader. Savage second. Johncock third. This could be a tremendous race. And Al Unser going down a little low, I think. Maybe coming into. There's Unser. It looks like he's going to make a pit stop. That could give Savage the lead again. Yes, he is. Oh, my God, it's Savage! Oh!
What a crash. God, right. You remember he made a pit stop just a little bit ago. The cars hold 75 gallons of fuel, and he hadn't burned much of that off. The race is...
Oh, somebody's been hit in the pit. A fire truck racing to the scene has hit a mechanic or somebody in the pit who's going the wrong way through the pit.
Jerry, you were about 100 yards, you would estimate, behind Swede Savage when what took place?
Well, somewhere there. I was coming off turn 4 when I saw Swede probably hit the wall, and I certainly don't know exactly what happened, but I'm surmising the track is extremely oily, and everyone that I've been around is slipping and sliding and having a very difficult time. In fact, as we're shooting a complete different line through the turn, instead of going through the groove, we're coming down across the warm-up apron trying to stay out of the oil and then coming back across the oil.
The yellow flag is out in Indianapolis, not for an accident, but for rain. It is raining again. It rained Monday, it rained Tuesday. Now the race is an official race, whether they started again or not, which I very much doubt. 11 cars left running in the race. And that's Gordon Johncock in the rain and the gathering darkness at Indianapolis. It appears that he is going to win a rain-shortened race.
The Electro Pacer are keeping the boys down to a very safe speed, and they're observing it. No one's closing up, Jim.
Just before the yellow came out, Roger McCluskey moved up into third place again, so it's Vukovic second, McCluskey third, and Johncock, of course, the leader. The red flag is in the hand of starter Pat Vidan. He isn't using it yet. The yellow's still being held out. We could get a red flag at any moment. If so, it doesn't mean the race is definitely over, but to all intents and purposes it does, because they couldn't possibly dry this track. You see the rain coming off the wheels and the tires. They couldn't possibly dry this track before darkness now. Johncock is going to win this race just as soon as the red flag comes out.
We wonder if he has enough fuel to stay out here. We don't know how long they'll keep the yellow flag out, Jim. They may be feeling that if the showers stop, the track would rather get a little more running in, and he's due for a pit stop almost now.
Watch starter Pat Vidan on the right of your screen. See if he puts out the red this time. The man in the white coat standing almost on the pit wall. Making a movement there. Johncock still running. There's the yellow flag being held by the assistant. There's the red flag. And that, I am virtually sure, will be it. There's no way they can dry this track. Johncock has won the race. Let's go down to Dave Dials in the pits.
This is the moment. You've just won your second Indianapolis 500. It's got to be a pretty good day for you, Mr. Granatelli.
Well, it's a good day and it's a bad day. Win some, you lose some. But glad the SCP car won the race today.
Let's pick up Bobby Unser now as we resume our coverage of the Indianapolis 500 and Bobby ducking into the pits. I think it's going to rain. And Unser pops in there. Just a little bit of fuel just topping off the tanks. A very hazardous, well, a dangerous decision, it seems to me. Now, there's Boyd. If he gets by him, he can't pass him under the yellow. I don't believe that he's going to have to back up and let A.J. reassume his position. You'll have to slow down as Ford comes on up and goes by him. Now they're in the proper perspective insofar as the race is concerned. So with the yellow on, Bobby Unser ducking in. It's very blustery now, and that big cloud that's been hovering within view for some time has again moved very ominously close, and I think we're going to get some rain. Look at that story about Pancho Carter sitting in the number 4 position. He started today in a car that he had not been in since he wrecked it. Gary Bond, his crew, they didn't go to bed between Thursday and this morning, and there is that rain.
Oh, and it's very heavy, Keith. It's almost thunder rain. It's going to absolutely flood the racetrack. Look at everybody running, but look how heavy the rain is. What are these cars going to do in this sort of rain?
They're going to start slipping and sliding. It is a cloudburst. An old-fashioned Midwest thunderstorm has hit with fury here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Remember, these cars have got slick tires on. They're not supposed to run in the rain. These cars can aquaplane at even about 20 miles an hour. You can see the starter, Pat Vidan, there. He's got the checkered flag in his hand.
All right, let's check the standings now. It becomes vital. Who's leading? It is Bobby Unser who has the lead. Johnny Rutherford is second. They're just barely moving along. They're beginning to hydroplane. They're throwing up a rooster tail. A.J. Foyt is running in third. Pancho Carter is 4. Roger McCluskey 5. Bill Pudebaugh 6. And George Snyder is 7. They're wobbling all over the place. There comes Unser and Foyt coming along. A.J. is a lap down, almost a lap down to Bobby. Bobby Unser in the blue car on the right is the leader as they work their way so very carefully. At this point, however, remember, Bobby Unser must be very careful because if he slides off the racetrack, he could still lose this race to Johnny Rutherford, who is feeling his way around. It's like walking on grease.
Remember, these drivers are not used to driving in the rain, and the cars are certainly not set up. I've driven in the rain, of course, a lot of times because in Europe we do drive in the rain, but there we have tires. And there's cars all over the place. I just thought that with the aquaplaning and the amount of water on the road, cars are spinning, and look at this car.
That's Billy Vukovic.
Billy Vukovic's trying to control it. He's heading for the infield. Oh, he's gone up on the fence, and he's coming, and he's driving it away.
The red flag is out. The race is stopped. The checkered flag is out. Back of the man stopping the race. There's Johnny Rutherford. He's running in second place.
Impossible conditions for these drivers. Look at that. It's almost fog. And the car's reversing down the front straightaway.
You can't see it, perhaps, but Bobby Unser coasting through the crowd there. There were 4 cars tangled up and coming off that 4th turn. A.J. Foyt coming along. He's going to be 3rd, and there's your winner, car number 48. Bobby Unser wins on a driving rainstorm here at Indianapolis. Well, this is the site of the unexpected. It has been so many times. But
Here comes Bobby Unser and A.J. Foyt. And Unser is the winner. Here's the man that put him there, Dan Gurney.
Dan Gurney, your car's just won the race. That's terrific, isn't it? Bobby Unser, you've just been trying to talk to him on the mic. He's out there somewhere. No, he's okay. He said, is that it? I said, you bet it is. That's fantastic. This is your first win as a team and Bobby's second win. Oh, we're certainly proud.
And so there is your winner. Cruising around, accepting the plaudits of the crowd, and Bobby's going to take his parade lap. He doesn't care if he has to get an oar to get that thing around, but he's going to enjoy it. Let's have another look at the escapade of Billy Vukovich coming out of turn 4.
Well, that car got loose there, only in the water with aquaplaning. As I said before, there's no tread in these tires. They are slick tires. This is what they're intended, but Billy Vukovich is reversing fast. And look at that man avoiding him there. He slams into the fence. He almost springs back on, and he did drive the car back.
Yes, he did. Cars involved up there included Vukovich, Jimmy Carruthers, Bentley Warren, and Mike Mosley. But there's the final results. Bobby Unser, the winner for a second time. He won it first in 1968. Johnny Rutherford, defending champion, finishes in second place. A.J. Foyt takes third. So A.J. is denied the opportunity to win his 4th Indianapolis 500. Pancho Carter, with a remarkable ride, will take 4th place, and Roger McCluskey will move into the number 5 position. So here comes your victor, splashing down toward victory lane.
Half the race gone. Foyt is still second. Then raindrops and a yellow flag. The fans cover up with plastic, but where does a race driver go to get out of the rain? The red flag is put out by Pat Vidan in the 103rd lap. Stops and the track dries slowly. Within 2 hours, the track is dry enough that they prepare for a restart. But at the last moment, the rain comes down again. Johnny Rutherford becomes the first man in history to walk into winner's circle.
The number 4 car of Kevin Cogan that appeared to start it all.
Roger Mears is out of the race with a damaged right front. Jim, this is absolutely...
Well, we've seen many unexpected things, but never a crash even before the green flag fell for the start of the race. We had a terrible crash just after the start back in 1973. That was when Walther spun, started it, rode up the wire caging. 10 or 11 cars were involved. Let's look at it again. The middle of the front row, just behind him is Johncock. A little out of order.
Yes, but now Cogan just looks absolutely fine, and he just fears. It's as if he turned the wheel intentionally, Jim.
Just unbelievable. And and that was Andretti coming right into him, into the side of his car from the inside of the second row.
Of course, because that's Andretti now backwards.
Yeah.
Look at the height that that wheel reached back in the back of the pack, where on the right of your screen, that's Roger Mears.
Dale Whittington in the yellow car up against the wall.
That tire bouncing along, that's Andretti's car stopped with its back to you on the right.
Maybe you noticed the yellow flag came out instantly.
Instantly, yeah. The officials can't be faulted in any way. They've handled this beautifully. There it is.
Somebody has a theory that...
Unbelievable, and of course he hit A.J. Foyt really hard, Jim, and it may be Foyt's luck not to have had his car damaged in any way. I've never seen anything happen on a racetrack for which there was nothing.
Well, now, you and Jackie have been saying if there ever have been odds-on favorites in this race, it's the two cars of the Penske team. One of those cars is gone, and the race hasn't even started yet. A red flag situation, as you see. This was Cogan earlier. This is videotape of Kevin Cogan trying to talk to Andretti, Andretti appearing to push him away. He doesn't want to listen, doesn't want to hear. Mario Andretti very, very upset. Now, our reporters are fanning out, trying to get the principals. Bill Fleming is with Mario Andretti right now. Okay. All right, Bill.
One more time, Mario. I couldn't hear what you said.
I said, this is what happens when you have children doing the man's job up front. That's what happens.
Somebody come right across in front of you.
Yeah, Cogan, you know, just, I guess, messed up, and his side was in front of me. I just had no choice but T-bone him.
All right, well, there's A.J. Foyt. He was just talking to Cogan for a moment. Had some choice words for him, no doubt. Now, Chris Economaki moving in on A.J.
A.J., how'd that start? Oh, I don't know. He ran right square in my goddamn left front. What are you talking about? Dubin? Cogan. Or A.J. Foyt blames it on Kevin Cogan. Back to you, Jim.
Well, A.J. blames it on Kevin. We haven't heard from him yet, the man who obviously was the principal figure. There's A.J.'s car. Chris Economaki now with Kevin Cogan. All right, Chris.
Kevin, tough break at the start. Can you describe what happened?
Well, all I know is we were moving down nicely and started to accelerate, and the car just moved to the right. There's a tire mark on the right side of my car. I don't know what happened.
What kind of shape is your car?
It's finished.
A.J. Foyt sort of puts the blame on you. Do you feel you might be responsible?
I don't think so. I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't do anything out of the ordinary. Just veered to the right. I had to take a look at the film because there's no point in me saying that somebody pushed me or anything like that until I take.
You're okay. I'm disappointed, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. Very.
I think we came down for too slow a start to begin with, Chris. And Kevin got on it, and the car got sideways with him a little bit, and he veered off in and touched Foyt. And then he came back across the track, and Mario nailed him broadside.
What happened in the crash was Kevin Cogan's car nicked his and bent the left front steering arm. This rod here was bent, and that made the front wheels pigeon-toed. That appears to be the only damage, and crewmen over here are replacing that rod. Now, they can get it replaced all right, but whether the steering will be as precise as necessary, that remains to be seen. A crew will definitely have this car fixed, but only A.J. Foyt will know whether it's fixed right once the car gets on the track. A.J., will they be able to get the geometry right, do you think, on this repair job?
I think we can hit it pretty close. We're just guessing. We don't have time to put the strings up on or anything, so we're just really guessing, Chris.
What'll it mean if it's out, A.J.?
They just won't hardly be able to drive it or be very competitive at all. If it's too bad, I'll have to park it.
In my opinion, Roger Penske has a car that's too good for a person like him, obviously, because the kid can be more dangerous than anything else.
Is this something you don't see or can't discern during practice, during qualifications?
No, of course not. In fact, I had a run-in with him in practice where he just out of the blue, he jumped out in a groove in front of me. I almost crashed into the back of him, and I tried to go up and talk to him like a father, if you will, and he wouldn't even listen, you know.
Does Roger Penske talk to you?
No.
What sort of personal disappointment is this to you, Mario?
Oh, I'm throwing everything away that I worked for very hard up to this point. I mean, it's the biggest disappointment that I could ever describe. I don't think I can describe it.
Is it a bigger disappointment than last year's ruling on the race?
Well, of course, because I had never had a shot at even going through the first turn, and you know, diligently we worked on it. I think we were well prepared to give a battle here, and you'd like to have a chance at the battlefield, and obviously I'm denied that chance by a situation like this.
What will you do now for the rest of the day?
Cry.
Roger, let me get you here for a quick comment. I just talked to Mario Andretti back in Gasoline Alley, and he much has said that as far as he was concerned, Kevin Cogan wasn't qualified to drive that car.
Well, obviously, this is a tough situation for Mario being knocked out of the race. I feel bad for him and for everybody else involved. But I've seen a lot of things happen, you know, at racing, and I think that's a pretty strong statement at this point. Kevin's done a good job for us, and obviously he's a man driving on our team, and I'm going to back him.
I think really what happened, and the films will probably show it, is that the start number 1 was way too slow. Way too slow. So much too slow, I don't even know how to emphasize it. And after that, Kevin was in first gear like Rick would have been, or in his second gear. They have a 5-speed transmission. And I don't think Kevin was experienced in the type of rim wheel torque that they would develop in what normally we call first gear. And the car just got sideways on him, I'm sure, and I'm sure that's what the films will show. And I think that it's very, very, very sad that guys with that much experience can't do a better job of starting a race than that. I was a little bit ashamed of it.
Certainly the similarities, especially at a moment like this, overwhelm the differences. Both love the limelight. Both are willing to risk their hides in order to experience it. I wouldn't like that very much. No, I don't think that's too neat, although it will probably have dissipated by the time they come around. It's got to be in their mind that it's going to be there. I wonder if that could lead to one more pace lap, Jim. I've never seen a smoke bomb on the back straight like that. It seems very ill-advised to have set it off.
Judging from the speed of the cars, it looks to me as though we may be headed for one more pace lap. We will watch very carefully. Starter Dwayne Sweeney, the USAC official, is the man who determines whether or not to put out the green flag. He's got the yellow out, so we are going to have one more pace lap. And there is Tom Sneva's car. You'll remember that he had trouble getting the car started, and he's obviously had further difficulty now, as you can see that the wheel of the car is up against the inside retaining wall, and it could be that Sneva's day has already ended.
It has. Although, now I saw him veer, but I thought he was just warming his tires up particularly savagely back in the middle of the pack. Now, is this related to the smoke bomb? Was the bomb some sort of a warning that a car was out? I don't know. But that car is damaged beyond repair as far as getting ready for the start of the race is concerned.
Dwayne Sweeney holding a red flag, and on the track, 32 cars are now pulling to a halt and lining back up in their starting position on the front straight. I say 32 because there will be an empty space on the inside of row 3. The space previously occupied by 1983 Indianapolis 500 champion, 3-time runner-up Tom Sneva. There is the car as it is being loaded for removal from the spot where it apparently came a cropper on the backstretch. There is Tom Sneva in the white fire suit, walking obviously dejectedly. And Sneva's car is somewhere to the left center of your screen, just edging around turn number 2. And you can see it dive off the track, Sam.
Well, Sneva had trouble getting his car started on the grid. I can't imagine there's any corollary between these two events, but right now he was in trouble there.
Well, it appears as though we've lost the left front corner, and Tom may have damaged the left rear as well. So we're just getting prepared. There's conflicting reports as to what the damage is. So we just got to wait and see what it is when it gets in here.
So those references are to the suspension pieces on the left front of the car?
Exactly, yeah.
Now, early on, when you had gentlemen start your engines, you failed to start. What was the problem there in the initial moments? We saw you had the steering wheel off the car.
The steering wheel is on a spline mechanism that's removable for ease of entry for the driver. We just had a little problem getting the thing on the splines. There was no dramas there.
Any concern that maybe that was the drama that unfolded on the backstretch, that maybe the wheel came unpinned?
I'd be surprised if it did. I don't think that's the problem.
And with Sneva directly ahead of him, we may have a unique chance to figure this out for ourselves. Now, Sneva was apparently just zigzagging to warm up the tires. Try to look beyond Pim's helmet and see if you see that smoke bomb drifting across the track. At this point, it certainly isn't a factor at all. Sneva just appears to be routinely warming his tires up, doing that zigzagging motion. Pim, of course, look at that. Boy.
And we don't yet see the smoke bomb, I think,
no.
Sam.
So the smoke bomb, there is no correlation whatever with the smoke bomb.
probably for the Bourbonnais-blown engine, but there is also, as you can see on the onboard camera there, a little bit of rain beginning to show as well. Jim Guthrie continues to motor around. You can see the sprinkle of rain on the front of the onboard camera on Jim's car.
The rain is beginning to come down much harder, and you're starting to see it on the screen itself, but Jim Guthrie is mired here on pit road, and he is one frustrated individual.
Here he comes, guys!
They're trying to save him from losing a lap. Missy Guthrie, you heard her voice, yelling to the crew, here they come.
Get him out there.
Can't send him out without the calling. He's about to go a lap down.
Well, you can send him out without that, and that's what they ought to do at this point if they think they can gather to keep that lap from going down.
Tom, they also got to try to keep. He's already 6 laps down. A rain delay, they might have a chance to work on that car. Temperatures, do you know what they were when you were running?
They're asking about the temperature.
82, and oil pressure's been in the high 90s, and the oil is 84.
At the line, the red flag goes out on lap 15. The Indianapolis 500 is stopped. Now, my question's going to be, in the past, the rule has been that you can't work on the cars until they decide what to do. He'll have some time. He's angry now. I bet he's going to go to work on the car.
He doesn't seem to be that pleased with the USAC decision to have him shut that motor down.
But this may work to their advantage. It may give them an opportunity they otherwise would not have had, because they will stop all of the cars. Now, in the past, they have waited a specific interval until they've said you can work on the cars. If they let them go to work on that right away, they may have gained a great deal of time. He says, hey, here's a good idea. Anybody have a red flag?
I think they noticed it in the pace car since they had the windshield wipers on.
Of course, you don't want to risk these machines even at the slower speeds, though they're about 80 miles an hour for the pace car. When the yellow flag goes out, that's still fast. The tires are slick, and running those cars at speed is not a safe thing. So the United States Auto Club has made this decision. And when you look down at the track surface, Tom, it doesn't look all that wet, but it's really hard to tell.
Well, it's not that damp, and let's hope it doesn't get much worse, but it's too damp to run these little rocket ships at 200 miles an hour.
You know, guys, down here, like turn 2, I can look right down at the pavement. It's probably no more than 50% with a little tiny spots or maybe a third wet. The problem is it's a real slow, light drizzle.
Rain delay continues in Indianapolis. We will continue coverage of the Indy 500 following today's episode of Carol and Marilyn. We'll update the situation throughout the program.
Helio Castroneves is the leader, but we are under a red flag. Pretty good shower moving over the speedway. In fact, it's wetting the front stretch here in front of us. And so the cars have been brought to a halt on pit road after they crossed the start-finish line.
Tony Stewart has just gotten out of the race car. Richie Hearn's getting ready to go to the garage to put on his driver's suit. Bob Jenkins.
Will Tony Stewart relinquish that ride and give it to Richie, or will he stick around for this rain delay?
Just took off running, and Tony said he wants more than anything to just get some movement into his leg because he was struggling with his cramp. Hey, Tony, real quickly as we go, what's your deadline? Tony Stewart is in the first aid room, and just a few moments ago, you saw him running from the car to the actual first aid area. Now, the first thing Tony did was lay down on one of the cots. He was complaining of pain in his right buttocks area because of the fact that he'd been sitting in the same position for so long, and therefore his right foot was experiencing some cramping and numbness. So the first thing he wanted to do was get out of the car, put some weight and pressure on that foot, and now he's come into the first aid room. He's laid down on the cot face first, and they're doing some massaging to the right upper buttocks area and the lower back down into the leg, into the right foot. Hopefully, Stewart will be able to not only get some feeling back in that foot, but also get back in the race car, Jerry Punch.
And Vince, this is the time in the race when a lot of drivers complain of cramping. We've talked to Buddy Lazier and a few others out here who had some cramps in their lower leg as well as their forearm. Now, the protocol for Tony Stewart today was to take him in the care center and try to get 2 liters of IV fluid in him and get him on the helicopter and get him out of here by 3 o'clock Central Time, 4 Eastern Time. If he leaves here by 3 o'clock, he will arrive in Charlotte 12 minutes before gentlemen start your engines. All right, he just walked out of the medical center in Chip Ganassi looking for his driver because they are calling him back to the cars.
Indeed, all drivers have been told to report to their cars, and we'll be getting hopefully restarted here in just a moment. Now, the forecast in Charlotte is for possible thunderstorms this afternoon. However, by race time later this evening, skies are expected to be clear. We're in a rain delay here at Indy. More in just a moment.
We are feeling a few raindrops.
Oh, we hope that doesn't go very far. Weldon, Catherine Evans fight for the lead. Coming out of the pits. It was a great pit battle all up and down pit road. Only 2 of the cars did not stop, and the caution comes out.
Yellow flag.
And this is for exactly what Jerry Punch mentioned. They've got some moisture on the race course.
Let's check in with Todd Harris.
All right, thank you very much. Here in Robbie Gordon's camp, it is very busy. They are talking to their pilot actually at the Indy airport. He is saying it's raining there now, and severe weather will be here in about 30 minutes. Robbie Gordon has to be out of that car. Michael Knight just told me at 2:45. That is when he has to get out of the car. And the man that's going to get in, my good friend, Mr. Jacques Lazier. Jacques, you were just up moments ago spotting for him, and here you are now zipping up.
Yeah, we first call of rain, they said to come on down, and I'm just sitting here. If he needs me, I'm here. So
you and I were flying home together last week on the airplane. You talked about going and spending some time with your dad in Vail with your wife and your child, and here you are back in Indy. How things change so quickly.
Yeah, it's funny the way things work, isn't it? Obviously I got home and got a phone call from Robbie, and he said, hey, I really need your help to spot up here, and just in case there's inclement weather, to come on up here and drive the Meyer Coca-Cola Chevrolet for me. So I mean, just definitely an honor for him to call me up and say, hey, come on up.
Okay, just make sure we don't.
Sarah Fisher's feeling great right now. She's in good spirits. She's going to come in right now. They're not going to take any tires. They're going to get full fuel. Go ahead, Paul.
They're stopping the race, Jamie. Sorry to interrupt you there, but the red flag came out.
That's all right. I was just reporting Sarah Fisher's feeling great. She was going to come in and forget about the tires, but right now the rain is definitely coming down.
And boy, is it too. It's just pouring on the front stretch.
Paul, there's a little confusion there. You saw the flagman standing by the flag station with a red flag with a yellow stripe going through it. That was saying that the pits were closed. The yellow lights were still on. The pits were closed. Well, the pace car came into the pit lane, and the drivers know that, hey, I'm not supposed to go in there. I don't want to be penalized, so they stayed on the racetrack. And Scott Sharp's asking the same question. Those guys are getting drenched in there right now, and I'll tell you, you got slick tires on there right now. That tire right there has no treads on it whatsoever. It can hydroplane very, very quickly. So the key thing for these guys is just to keep it slow and steady. You just don't want to slide off and have a slight graze with the wall in a situation like this.
Paul, you remember when Bobby Unser won that rain-shortened race and the thunderstorm came down and everybody was slipping and sliding on those slick tires?
And as a matter of fact, the way they are, even at the reduced speed that they're running now, they can spin those cars pretty easily because, as Scott said, there is no tread. Again, if the fans are the indicators, certainly the umbrellas are up, and some of them are going to go down underneath the grandstand where plenty of concession, but also it keeps them out of the rain. A red flag is out after 29 laps of the 88th running of the Indianapolis 500.
We're getting to him, and we are.
No, this is actually the best thing.
Local news is getting in there.
This is the best thing that happened to us because of the weather. So, we got put in a situation where weather held us out. and looks like weather's going to save us here. We can always come back tomorrow and race.
Did you feel like you had a good car while you were racing?
We had a great car. We went from 18th to 9th on the first lap, and we had a bad pit stop. We lost some positions, but we'll learn from our mistakes and be stronger later on here today.
Robbie, what's your plan right now?
No, the weather's not going to keep us from Charlotte. We should be able to get to Charlotte okay, and I think we got good race cars on both ends. The Meyer Coca-Cola car here was very fast. Disappointed that we lost, what did we lose, 7 positions in pit lanes. So we'll get those back. We got a car that handles right up underneath cars, and we were able to get through some Toyotas and through some Hondas. So pretty happy with the Chevrolet.
What'd you say to Jacques Lazier?
Well, I told Jock if he gets in to drive it, he's got a good race car. Very, very happy with what kind of car the guys gave me. Thomas Knapp, the engineer. We worked hard all month long, and I knew we weren't going to have the speed for qualifying, but I thought we'd have a car for the race.
Yeah, doesn't even get a chance to get out of his uniform, does he? Robbie Gordon runs for the helicopter over on the backside of the golf course, championship golf course that is inside and outside of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, but he's going to be greeted by weather may not be that much different than this.
And yet Robbie Gordon says that he has learned an awful lot from attempting the double in the past, and starting at midweek he began to hydrate himself. Before the race, he actually submitted himself to some intravenous IV fluids because he said that was the big mistake he made the last time. So now he's ready, he's loaded up, the helicopter will take him, but let's just hope that it's not all for naught down there at Charlotte as well.
And now the rain is coming down very heavily. Now the key, Brent, is to remember that you can keep the track. If the cars can continue to go out, you can keep the track from going away from you. If it rains for too long and the track goes away, then we could be in for a long drying process.
Yeah, exactly, Jack. And, you know, it's interesting that this track, of course, was once laid with bricks, millions of them, and the paving was completed on the entire speedway after the 1961 race. But, folks, underneath that asphalt, it's all brick, and it does not drain real well. It's not like a salt base under there, so it takes them away a while to dry this track out. And when they give us the red flag, as they have right now, the red flag is waving across from me, they will shut it down. And remember, if we cannot restart it, Tony Kanaan has just won his first Indianapolis 500. 101 laps made it official, and we have completed 113 of the scheduled 200.
And thanks, Brent. And you know, if this race does end, it will be the second shortest race in history. Only 1976 was shorter at 102. Has been shorter. Stay here. We're not going anywhere. We've got a lot for you, even though we are going to be stopping the cars. One of the things I want to talk about when we could get a chance is Michael Andretti's strategic move. He knew he couldn't win the race if it was called permanently for rain. He comes in, tops off fuel, has fresh tires. I think that's a brilliant move if we get this race restarted, because he has 11 laps over the leaders, and it could play into his favor. We picked up some interesting radio conversation between Kyle Moyer and Marco Andretti during those yellow caution laps when the rain first started. Let's listen in.
Are we going green? No, it is not going green. It's yellow and it's raining here, so the biggest thing right now is you just need to be careful here, okay? We're probably going to rain enough that's going to red flag it. We'll decide what we're going to do after that, okay, when we get this thing running again. Oh, the race isn't over then? Not still. Brian Barnhart calls it. Oh, when they red flag it, it's over, right? No. When they red flag it, they're going to pull you in the pits and let you sit there for a while. Right now, it's still yellow. Until Brian Barnhart decides it's a race, we still got a shot here. It's only 3 o'clock. Copy that. In 04, we set for an hour 45 before we were racing again. I can't believe this. I'm happy, but I'm not, you know? I know.
So he's happy because it's his teammate in front. He's sad because he's in second.
Because he really knows that might have been the pass for the lead, but you know, he was getting a clarification of the rules, and for Marco Andretti getting that information from Kyle Moyer, it's probably really not what he wants to hear, but may have been just very much the pass that cost him the lead for the Indianapolis 500. Hunter race is better than 1 and 2.
Caution, crash. There was debris in turn 2, now a crash. That's Townsend Bell.
Turn 4 is hungry today. That was 2.
So just as IndyCar officials called for a debris for caution on the racetrack in turn 2, Townsend Bell finds himself with a heavy crash, and the yellow flag is out with just 10 laps to go.
So we're going to see him come into frame from the right-hand side as we did. Something goes on with the car, guys, I think, mid-turn, Eddie, because that thing is gone. Now, we heard debris. Did he run over the debris? Did the tire get flat? We don't know.
At the end of these races, when you have accidents and they try to pick up the debris, it's impossible to get it all in. It takes so very little to cut a tire.
Well, the debris, I think, possibly that they talked about might have been ahead of where he had the accident.
Yep. Red flag. They're going to stop the race because there's so much debris to clean up in turn 2, and they want to give these fans a shot at seeing as much of a green flag shootout to the finish as they can. Look at all that debris they've got to pick up.
Because they could not have cleaned it up in 9 laps. I think that's a great decision.
The debris was the right front wing plate off of Sebastian Saavedra's car, we believe. Watch those two.
Oh, Savage just gets the left rear tire of Jacques Villeneuve's Dollar General car as they're coming out of the turn, and that's the debris that we were going to go yellow for. As you watch and ride along with Juan Pablo Montoya just up ahead. Oh, that thing snaps. That's almost like what happened to Busch the other day.
Something went wrong.
The back end comes around.
So the field going to be brought down the pit lane and stopped under the red flag to allow the cleanup to continue. And listen to the fans roar with approval at that decision.
What a great decision. I'm so glad. We don't know if it's not going to end in a yellow, but I think it's glad they have a shot.
Back live at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Repairs being made to the Sopher barrier, the steel and foam energy reduction system that is on the inside of the concrete retaining walls around the Speedway. One of the great safety innovations in motorsports to help cushion the impact of the blow, and that's left the field under the red flag before these final 8 laps of this one play out. Drivers will have their hands full, some long straightaways, some caution. Turn 2. Trouble. Oh my goodness, what a huge crash. Scott Dixon is in it. Jay Howard is the other car involved. Dixon and Jay Howard. There is Dixon. Look at that car. It is destroyed.
There's nothing left of the back. That sawed the engine in half.
Safety crew there working with Jay Howard.
Out, guys.
Good to see Jay Howard climb from that car.
As we watch the cars go through here, guys, the car on the very top, okay, which is Jay Howard, we're going to roll this through now. Well, look at Jay. He's already way off the line. He's off the dark patch of the racetrack, which we call the racing line. He's up in the gray. He's lost control of the car. He's hoping he's not going to hit the wall. He impacts the wall, comes off the wall, just misses the 10 of Tony Kanaan. Unfortunately, Scott Dixon is right there, up and over the front of the car. Car hits on the top of the wall. The safety cell on these cars, guys, I can't tell you how strong they are. An awful accident, but as we saw, Scott Dixon right there, hands away from the steering wheel. We saw him get out, and when we first went to this frame, when we first saw this accident, you heard some roar from the crowd, and that was because they knew that Scott Dixon was okay, and the 77 of Jay Howard was also okay.
Boy, this is just bad timing on Dixon's part and incredible fortune with the way this car lands on top of the wall.
Or he's incredibly fortunate.
On the top right there. On the top load.
He doesn't really use the safety fencing. He lands on top of it.
Obviously, part of the car got into it to rip it open, right?
Yes. He landed. Yeah. Oh my! I have never witnessed an accident like that.
First of all, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine, thanks. Yeah. No, credit to IndyCar, Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the Maltro safety team, Dallara, everyone that's involved in building this car. Obviously, I'm fine. It's thanks to them. I'm really glad Scott's okay, as he was a victim of this. So, sucks.
What happened with your car? It looked like we were talking about some suspension issue in the front.
I'm not sure about that. We ended up a couple of laps down. We ran out of fuel in the first stint, so that kind of put us a couple of laps down. And we were out there just trying to pick off some laps and see if we get some yellows and maybe try and salvage something from a race. And Hunter Ray comes, gets a run on me. I lift to let him go, try and be the nice guy. And he moves right over on me and puts me out in all the grey and all the marbles, and rest is history, and it causes a massive accident. So, to say I'm unhappy is an understatement.
We saw Scott Dixon's car coming up behind you. Could you see on your left side mirror his car approaching, or did it happen too quickly?
No, it all happened way too quickly. I let Hunter Ray go, and then I tried to slot in behind him, but he pushed me out in the marbles, and I was just a passenger at that point.
Glad you're okay.
Yeah, thanks.
And for Jay, he's already on the outside just a little bit, guys. Those right side wheels are out of the black. That's where all the rubber is. That's where the grip is. And he said a passenger, I've used that term for many years. When you get into that situation, you are a passenger. As you mentioned, Alan, he hits the wall. The suspension is then broken on the right front, and he just comes across the track, and unfortunately, Scott Dixon collects him.
Now you could see Howard's left front wheel turned all the way to the right as he tried to keep the car up against the wall, but he was just hanging on. And again, fortunately, Dixon climbed from his car. We saw that, and we look forward to being able to hear from him when possible.
I'm just bummed for them, man. Glad everybody was okay. It was definitely a wild ride, for sure. And big thanks to Dallara and everybody, for the safety standards that we have right now.
We saw you moving around in the car. What's it like? We know that you're okay now. When you hit Howard and the car launched in the air, what are you seeing? What are you thinking?
Yeah, it's tough. I think when you make those decisions, of which way to go, you're hoping that the car, I was hoping that Jay was going to stay against the wall, but obviously with the impact it then started to turn down. But I'd already picked that, that way to go, and there was nowhere else to try and avoid him. So I'm glad he's okay too. And it's just a wild ride, man. You just hold on, and believe in the safety, progress that we've had over, the last many years.
Inside move for the lead. Alexander Rossi takes the Napa Auto Parts Honda to the lead.
Pagenaud now needs to save fuel. He can't let Rossi go. Oh, we got a crash. And that is what Pagenaud needed when he was in the lead.
Sebastian Bourdais is in it. Sebastian Bourdais, Felix Rosenquist, Zach Veach, Charlie Kimball. This is huge.
Pagenaud needed that to happen about 5 seconds beforehand.
Will Power tiptoeing through. What has happened here? This is an ugly scene with 23 laps to go.
Dixon just hopped out of his car.
Graham Rahal.
Not sure if he's mad or concerned.
Car's not too badly damaged there.
Oh, and Rahal is furious. He had a strong car. He was well inside the top 10.
See this so many times here. 23 laps to go. The urgency grows. People need to make moves happen before the tire wear starts to spread the field out. And Graham Rahal knows he had a great opportunity that's gone now.
He gets a run, gets down the inside, and he's just, they touch wheels and they touch. So he was obviously upset with Sébastien Bourdais that he turned in on him when he was there.
He hasn't even stopped yet. He's trying to discuss.
That wasn't a nice gesture slap on the head. That was a slap on the head. Hey, I'm mad at you.
Well, Rahal was about a quarter of the way up, and you can argue it both ways. Bourdais could have left him room. Graham could have backed out, but they're going for the Indy 500 win.
Oh, he's hot. That was no, hey, are you okay? Watch this.
At this point, Bourdais like, I'm just going to stay right here.
I've been that guy before.
I've been both too.
Didn't quite get to the level of Clint Boyer and Ryan Newman.
Yeah, just two guys going for the same piece of road. They touch on the entry there. Bourdais holding his line, and Graham got it in there, and Bourdais turned in. He's in the grass.
I don't know if Bourdais holding his line as much as is kind of giving him a little bit of the squeeze going down the back straightaway.
Folks, remember that this is over 220 miles an hour.
And look at Bourdais, tries to catch the slide, but it's too late. Car's gone, and at this point, Graham's up in the dirt and can't see anything in the tire smoke.
And then the guys in the back in that tire smoke, you can't see. Look at all these guys. They're all hard.
That was Rosenquist just flat lost it.
Yeah, hard on the brakes. You can't see, and you're on the brakes, and the rear end comes out from you. Those guys are just trying to lock it down and trying not to hit anything.
Look at Hunter-Reay trying to, just avoid Kimball.
Speaking of Ryan Hunter-Reay, I bet you we've got an onboard of that. Here's a different angle. Oh, look at Bourdais' car climb. Veach is into the wall. Andretti gets through. Dixon gets through. Kimball doesn't. Rosenquist doesn't. Harvey does. Servia does. View from Jack Harvey.
Outside. Yellow. Go low here. Low.
Look at,
good job, buddy. Good job.
Look at Ferrucci. Fast by Ferrucci goes sailing through the grass.
There you go. Good job, buddy. Good job, Jack.
Veach and Rosenquist came on way too hot. Look at this. Oh, it's a big hit for Zach Veach. Massive rear impact.
Ferrucci threaded the needle and then cut through the grass into the wind of the warm-up lane and avoided all of that.
And we were on our way to a record finish. The previous record, 26 cars finished in the Indy 500. There were still 30 on track, but a lot of cars out in this accident.
What this is going to do now, no more fuel issues for Pagenaud. He's going to be able to go flat out now. So we'll see if he can get back by Rossi, because now with this yellow, it's going to take a little while to clean up. And we've just got word it's gone red, and that is really going to help.
Here's the reaction of Jimmy Vasser, James Sullivan, and Dale Coyne. They knew they were in the mix as well. Got plenty of angles for you of the wildest scene in this 103rd Indy 500. James Hinchcliffe, how did it look for Hinch?
Get low. Stop it. Stop. Through the middle. Right. There you go.
That was pretty lucky.
Good job.
Got little John as a spotter up there yelling, get low.
You've heard the expression threading the needle. That was it right then and there for James Hinchcliffe. So cars come to pit road under this stoppage.
Difficult situation for these drivers. You've just been in full intensity mode all day. 20 laps to go, red flag. You're going to come to pit lane. And there's limited access for the pit crew to the cars.
They will plug a battery in to keep the battery charged up so they don't have any issues starting. But this really is going to help Simon Pagenaud with his fuel woes. He needed a lap or two he needed to make up. That's why he got out of the lead.
But luckily for Rossi, he got to the lead before that yellow. So it's, I think, going to help Rossi a little bit because it wasn't that easy once we got into the middle of the stint. Rossi made it happen early enough on. So it's going to be a battle. Paul, you and I 5 hours ago predicted Rossi versus Pagenaud, as Matt Damon would say. How do you like them apples?
I like it a lot. This is going to be an epic Indy 500 on NBC.
Just got a killer run here, and I was lifting a little bit to just manage my gap. You know, you pull out, you get to this point, and you can see him squeezing me inside, turns into me, and then, you know, nothing you can do. And as all of us know, in this, you know, with 20 to go, 22 to go, it's the time. I mean, you have to give every opportunity to go for it. I think Sebastian knows that, which is probably why he hasn't said much to me. But yeah, it was disappointing. I mean, our United Rentals car, as you guys could see, was just heating up, and it seemed like Alex and I were the only two that were able to really pass there at the end, and I was feeling good about things. Hadn't changed much, just trying to march to the front. So I'm just very disappointed. You know, it's another year you get to sit and think about this, but you know, I respect Sebastian a lot. I don't respect that move, but I do respect him as a driver tremendously, and I'm sure he feels the same right now. But at those speeds, that's how you kill somebody, and I'm just not a fan of squeezing people and putting people in those positions. It's not necessary.
Well, I didn't think he had as much of the car as he did inside. It's always a dynamic thing. I mean, he got a run, and then it kind of stalled there for a little while, and then you know, it's turned in, and we make contact before we even get there, which is kind of what sets up the whole thing, because it just gets the car wiggly a little bit just before turn in, and at that point I'm just trying to kind of collect the whole thing. And yeah, I mean, I guess it's always easy to say that, you know, I should have given up going into the corner, but at that point when you have to make the call whether you're going to jump on the brakes and let the guy fly in, because I didn't really feel like the side-by-side was an option. I didn't really want to pay the price to see what was going to happen there. It started to be a bit of marbles, and I really didn't feel like that was an option, so I just I thought he was just going to back off and we're going to be okay. But you know, it's that stage of the race where nobody wants to give up, and it's just bad timing.